Some rooms are perfect for a single big night. These two are more about unpacking and settling in. There are two king suites on the second floor of Stanton House Inn. They're down the hall from each other. They both still carry vestiges of the 1900 renovation, and they answer two completely different questions about what a great room is supposed to do. This episode is about the long room and the apartment suite, and what each of them tells you about how this house was meant to be lived in. Now, if you don't know who I am, my name is Colin Pearson. I'm a fourth generation innkeeper at Stanton House Inn in Greenwich, Connecticut. Every room in this house had a life before it was a guest room. This series is about those lives. Earlier episodes covered the rooms my family lived in and the third floor servant suites. Today we're on the second floor of the original house. Two king suites. Same floor, same era. One was the family's primary bedroom after the 1900 renovation. It's a long, sunny room that still feels like the room of the people who lived here. The other is quieter, north-facing, more practical than dramatic. One of the things I've learned about this house is that rooms on the same floor don't all host to stay in the same way. These two are a great example of that. Let's start with the long room. This was the primary bedroom of the original house at Stanton House Inn. Room 20 is also called the brush suite. It sits in the southwest corner of the second floor. After the 1900 renovation, this was the family's primary bedroom, and it still reads that way. It's a long room with three quiet zones, a fireplace from the Stanford White renovation, and a clawfoot tub in its own alcove. It's the room you book when you want to settle in for a few nights. The fireplace in this room came from a Stanford White renovation in 1900. The Brush family expanded this house into roughly the footprint it has today in 1900. Stanford White's firm led that renovation. The fireplace mantel in this room dates from that period. Stanford White was one of the big names in architecture during the Gilded Age. His firm was called McKim, Mead, and White. For this room, the useful part is what the renovation left behind. The proportions tell you what the space was for. Tall ceilings, windows on two sides, a room long enough to have a place to sleep, a place to sit by the fire, and a place to sit down at a table. It was the owner of the house's bedroom. And you feel that the second you walk in the door. Not in a haunted way though, promise. For a long time, we talked about the brush suite as the romantic suite with a clawfoot tub. And that was true, but it was also a shallow version of the story. It's better to see the room as the primary bedroom of our historic house. It feels more like you're staying in the primary bedroom while house sitting for your friends at their country estate for a few days. The job of this room is quite simple. Feel like the family's bedroom in a country house. A place you unpack in, not a place you blow out for one big night. One long room, three quiet zones, sleep, read by the fire, and sit down to a real table. The first highlight is the zones. This room is long, and I think it's the most useful thing about it. There's a defined bedroom area. King four-poster bed, antique dresser, antique secretary, anchor rug under the bed, of course. I'm very into rugs, a quirk working at Stanton House Inn brought out of me. Past the front of the bed, the room turns into a fireplace seating vignette. Two lounge chairs, a copper side table between them, and past that the room becomes a dining and work corner, an antique fold-out table, two curved back chairs. You can sleep, read by the fire, and eat or work at a real table without piling everything on top of the bed. That's what makes the brush suite the right room for a longer stay. The paint was the part I didn't fully understand until dusk. I chose a wall color that does its best work at that hour. That's when guests arrive, and that's when most of them see this room properly for the first time. I noticed it when I was finishing the room one evening, alone, with the lamps on. In strong afternoon light, it stays calm. Under lamplight, it warms. The room almost smolders. That was the version I'd been working toward without quite realizing it. The hour the room really pops. The third step in design was about what to keep and what to add. I would say about 70% of this room is inherited. The four-poster bed, the antique dresser, this big old secretary, the fold-out dining table, the fireplace mantle, of course. The rest is modern to keep a bit of balance. The lounge chairs, the copper side table, the dining chairs, the textiles. The four-poster is the bed this room really needs. I didn't want a bed too low for the proportions. A four-poster fills the vertical space the tall ceilings call for. Anything shorter would look apologetic. And the fourth step in the process was the art. The art does the country house thing without beating your head over with it. Cows in water, a sporting print near the table, a winter sleigh, just enough to remind you that this was a country home in Connecticut, and has been for centuries. Because Manhattan is only 45 minutes away, give or take. Without these pieces, it's just a pretty bedroom. With them, it remembers and reminds you where it is. The brush suite is for the guest who wants to live in a room for a few days, not perform a milestone in one. It's for couples on quiet 2 to 4 night escapes who relish in space and character. The long proportions and 3 zones make more sense once you've actually used them. Also, it's great for solo guests on long stays, the writer, the consultant, anyone who wants a country bedroom that doubles as a real workspace, without it feeling like a hotel room with a desk shoved against a wall. This suite also hosts repeat guests who are graduating up from smaller rooms into this, the room with the most history. For this room, I picture the couple who arrives on a Friday afternoon. They unpack properly. They use the table for breakfast and laptop time. They sit by the fire in the evenings. By Sunday, they've used every zone in the room. That's the rhythm we designed the brush suite for. Some rooms are best for a single big night. This one is more for unpacking and living here. If you've ever wanted to borrow the primary bedroom in a country house for a few days, the brush suite is that room. Brush suite is the long, sunny primary bedroom of the house. 3 zones, south and west light, a clawfoot tub and its own alcove. Down the hall on the same floor, there's a very different suite. It's quieter, north-facing, more inward. And the way it's laid out does all the work. If room 20, aka the brush suite, is the long room, this one is the apartment suite. A large hotel room gives you space. This suite gives you places to be. A north-facing king, same floor as the brush suite, other end of the hall. A king bed facing a historic fireplace surround, a big navy reading armchair, a real desk, a wet bar near the door, a divided bath that splits across 2 rooms. It's one of the most practical rooms in the house. This suite sits in the north wing of our historic house, officially named the Seaman Brush House. In 1920, after the Brush family moved out, Theodore Pomeroy purchased the property. The Pomeroys were part of the social life of the house after that. It feels like the kind of room you would have retreated to at the end of the day in the Roaring '20s. It's quiet, it's private, it's well equipped for a long evening. The fireplace surround in this room dates from the same 1900 renovation as the brush suite. Same firm, same era. The same project that gave room 20 its mantle gave this suite its surround and mantle as well. The insert today is electric. The mantle is original, the fire is not. The ambiance is real. The flame is electric. That's how a lot of old houses work in the modern era. We like to stay on the good side of Greenwich's fire department after all. The light in here is north facing. It's steady, even, no harsh sun. Brush has the south light and the warmth that comes with it. Pomeroy gets the calm. For a long time, this suite got described in language that oversold it. Grand, luxurious, the whole 9 yards. That language is all gone now. This room really works like a small apartment though. A bed that faces the fireplace, a solid antique desk, a reading chair that actually gets a lot of use, a wet bar, and a bath that allows 2 people to get ready at once. It's the suite that makes more sense the longer you stay here. The first unique quirk of the Pomeroy suite is the divided bath. The bath is split across 2 rooms. One has the tub and shower combo plus a large sink. The other has the toilet and a second sink. The doors are on either side of the king bed. It sounds small and a little odd, but it matters in the morning. When 2 people are getting ready at the same time and nobody has to negotiate mirror time, the room does something a single bath suite just can't. There's a story behind the layout, by the way. This suite was created by combining a former queen room with the old room 24. They both had two odd footprints, and they became one suite that works quite well. I don't call it luxury, I call it practical. Guests decide on the luxury part all on their own. The second unique quirk are the zones. The bed faces the fireplace and the TV. That's the sleeping zone. The big navy armchair sits next to a Victorian marble top dresser. That's the reading nook. It has a brass sconce, a real chair for actual reading. The large antique desk is tucked into the corner under the HVAC head in front of a vintage wooden screen. That's the workspace. It's got a real surface, room for a laptop and papers, and plenty of space to spread out on. The wet bar sits near the door. It's got a sink, a fridge, the coffee setup. It's the first functional thing you meet on arrival to the room. And that's not an accident. 4 zones inside one generous room. Sleeping, reading, working, settling in with a drink. That's what makes it feel like borrowed quarters in a private home rather than a suite in a chain hotel. The third unique trait here is the light. North light is steady, gentle, easy on late sleepers, easy on anyone working at a laptop. The windows look out toward the Copper Beach on the north side of the grounds. That tree has been here longer than most of our guests have been alive. That tree has been here longer than all of our guests have been alive. In the leaf, it's a deep burgundy screen against the sky. In winter, it shows its bones. The room doesn't compete with the sun, it leans into it. The fourth quirk to be on the lookout for is the art and the objects. The long frame piece above the bed has lived in various rooms in this house for years before finding its perfect spot on the wall right here. That's how old houses furnish themselves. Things migrate to where they belong. There's a map of historic Washington, D.C. on the wall, a globe on the desk, antique prints worth a slow look on the first evening. Over the wet bar, there's a print of a grumpy-looking woman from around 1900. She looks like she has heard enough, and she makes me chuckle every time I walk in. There are also a few small things in the room that guests tend to find after a second look around the room. I'll leave those alone. Not everything needs a label. The whole room is collected over time. That's the trick, really. It should feel gathered and collected, not staged. There's a design principle in this suite that I want to call out. The rooms that work best aren't the most dramatic. They're the ones where the layout just works. The Pomeroy suite is that room. The divided bath, the reading chair that actually gets used, the antique desk that's quite usable, the wet bar, the north light that doesn't fight you. None of it is showy. All of it is correct. This suite is for guests on 2 or 3 night stays who want a grown-up suite, I call it. Privacy, calm, no honeymoon or over-the-top romantic performance. It's for the guest who has to answer emails while they're here, but doesn't want the room to feel like an office. And it's for anyone who likes the idea of borrowing a Greenwich apartment for a few days in a historic house instead of staying in a hotel-style suite. I picture the couple who comes back from Greenwich Avenue in the late afternoon. They pour something from the wet bar. One of them answers a few questions at the desk. The other settles into the navy chair with a book. Nobody is performing the trip. Both of them are in it. If you care more about how a room works than how loudly it performs, Pomeroy Suite is usually the suite you end up in. Same floor, same era, 2 very different ideas of what a great room is supposed to do. The Brush Suite is the long southwest-facing primary bedroom. A fireplace from the 1900 renovation, 3 quiet zones, a clawfoot tub in its own little alcove, walls that warm up right when guests arrive. The Pomeroy Suite is the north-facing apartment suite. A divided bath, a real antique desk, a wet bar, a seriously cozy armchair. Steady light with the Copper Beach outside the window. Some guests are long room people. Others are more apartment suite people. Most of them don't know which one they are until they've stayed in both. I think that's the most honest thing I can say about these 2 suites. They aren't competing. They're answering different questions. The Brush Suite asks, what would it feel like to borrow the primary bedroom in a country house for a few nights? The Pomeroy Suite asks, what does a suite look like when the layout works perfectly? Both are good questions. The funny thing is, this house answers both of them on the same floor, about 50 feet apart. That's one of the things you start to notice when a house has been in one family for 4 generations. Rooms don't have to do the same job. They get to be specific. Brush gets to be the long primary bedroom. Pomeroy gets to be the apartment suite. The house is big enough for both. If one of these sounds like the way you travel, you'll find photos and booking details linked below. And if you want to keep seeing how we think about this old house, there are a lot more rooms with stories I'd love to tell. Thanks for watching.